Okay, so the last piece of the box assembly that we need to do is the box bottom. Okay, the box bottom is going to be pretty much the same dimensions from a cross-sectional point of view as the top of the box, but it is going to be deeper, and then we have these cutouts that we're going to have to do so that we can fit screws up through the bottom box into the top box to secure it together. So we want to open up a new part. We're going to do metric standard millimeter part. Okay, and we're going to start this one the same exact way as we start a move this over, get that closed. We're going to start this the same way as we started the box top. Okay. Wait for it. There we go. Okay, now we're in. Okay, so to start that top box, we start with a 2D sketch on this horizontal plane. Okay. And we created a rectangle, and we dimensioned it. What were the dimensions?
50 by 20.
50. Good. And then the side dimension was, as you guys said, 20. So we'll adjust that to 20. And then we constrained it so that it was centered on the origin. To do that, we do a horizontal constraint between the midpoint of the side and the origin, and we do a vertical constraint between the midpoint of the top and the origin in order to lock the location of it. We already had locked in the size of it with a 50 and 20. Now we locked in the location of it with constraining the midpoints to the origin, and everything's centered right on the origin. Okay, so it's fully constrained. We're now going to finish sketch. Okay, we're going to finish sketch. We're going to extrude this rectangle now, but instead of extruding it up like we did for the top box, I'm going to extrude it down just so that from a coordinate system point of view, everything is constructed in a way that it is supposed to fit together. So I'm going to switch direction. And what is the depth of the box? Look at the drawing. What does it say?
30.
30. Okay, it has a depth of 30. Good. Okay, great. So we've got a depth of 30, and I'm going to click OK. So we've got our box here, correct? And we want to shell this out, don't we? Here's the problem. Okay, before we shell it out, we need to do the corner cutouts. Okay, the reason being is that the corner cutouts don't extend the full length of the box. They extend how far? Looking at the dimensions, how far do they extend? 28 inches, because the little flange that's left is 28 millimeters, right? Because the flange that's left is 2 millimeters thick. So 30 minus the 2 gives us 28. The way I'm going to achieve that is I'm going to flip this over to look at the bottom of the box. Okay, looking at the bottom of the box, I'm going to create a 2D sketch on the bottom of this box that I'm going to cut away from this box. Okay? So creating a 2D sketch on the bottom of this box, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create rectangles on each corner. Well, really squares. Okay? Looking at the drawing, what does it look like the cutout dimensions are?
3 millimeters squared.
3 millimeters by 3 millimeters, right? Okay. So I'm going to create one of the rectangles on the corner, and I'm going to dimension it to 3 by 3. So it's dimensioned to 3 by 3, and it's locked in on that corner, and these sides are parallel to the sides of the bigger rectangle. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another rectangle. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pattern out of this box that I have right here. Okay? I'm going to create a pattern out of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create a rectangular pattern. Okay? Creating that rectangular pattern, the geometry that I want to pattern, I'm going to select all 4 sides, Then I'm going to select my first direction as along the top of my box. Now so it's going to pattern it along that edge, but it's patterning it the wrong direction. So we have this flip button right here, which will flip the direction that it's patterned. Okay. The other direction, direction 2, is along this side length, the vertical side length. Notice what it does. Notice that I have, and it's chosen the right direction. Notice that I have 2 marked in each of these boxes. If I change this to a 3, it's going to pattern 3 that way. If I change this to a 4, it's going to do 4 down. So you're essentially selecting the grid you want. We want back to 2 by 2, don't we? Because we want 1 in each corner. What we now need to do is we need to adjust the dimensions. How far do I need to pattern it over?
Is it like patterning from the center of the box?
No, that's a good question. Well, technically yes, it is patterning from the center of the box.
Okay.
So, how far? What's the total width of the box? 50. Watch what happens if I do it 50.
Okay.
Because it's going center to center, isn't it? How thick is the box?
Oh,
What's the width of the little box? 3. So what do I need to adjust that to? 47. Now it lines up where it's supposed to be. What do I need to adjust this dimension to? The full is 20, so I need to do it at 17. I hit enter, and it patterns that so that it lines up with each corner. Okay? If we change the dimensions of our box, these corners will be off. I'll have to come back in and change the location of them again. Okay? So with those in place, I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. Okay? Now I'm going to extrude each of these holes, or each of these boxes. I'm going to extrude that, 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 and that. But you'll notice that the default that is selected is extruding them up. We don't want to add material to our original box. We want to subtract material from our original box. So the option right below join is cut. And notice what it does. It says, okay, it's supposed to cut, so I'm going to turn back around on the solid that already exists and cut that away. Notice that it's already has 30 selected because the length of the height of that box is 30. We don't want it to go all the way. David, what did you say we wanted? 28 millimeters, so that we have those 2-inch flanges left, correct? Okay, so that's how I'm going to create those cutouts there. I'm going to hit OK, and there we go. We've got those cutouts so that I have these flanges right here that I can put holes in to put bolts through to screw it on to the box top. Okay. At this point, okay, now that we have the general shape of it completed, we want to shell it out. Okay, we want to shell this solid out. So again, we go to our shell command, which is right here between chamfer and draft. So shell. It's going to look at the entire object and it's going to shell it. Now, what is the thickness that we want it to be? Look at your drawing. What does it say the thickness of the walls is? 2 millimeters. So I'm going to change my thickness to 2 millimeters. And then don't I need to remove one of the faces? I need to shell it out and then open up one of the faces. So with remove face highlighted, okay, I'm going to select this top face to remove. So it will shell that top face out. And now it looks like what we want it to look like, so I'm going to click OK. And we have our box nicely shelled out, uniform thickness of 2 millimeters everywhere. Okay, there we go. Well, you'll notice in the drawing that everything is nicely filleted, isn't it? All the edges have nice rounds except for that top surface that is mating to the top box. Okay, so we need to next thing we need to do is we need to add the fillets. So to add the fillets, we come up here to our fillet command. Okay, it's already set the radius of the fillets to 2 millimeters. Is that what we want? Take a look at the drawing. Is a fillet of 2 millimeters what it's asking for. Do you see on the drawing where it says, it's pointing to one of the fillets and it says R2.00 and then TYP next to it? That means typical. It means all fillets on this drawing are 2 millimeter radius, which it's already set to. So now we need to select everything that we want filleted. Remember we had the opportunity to select loops and features? So I'm going to select feature. If I select the inside of that box, look at what it's doing. It's highlighting everything but keeping this top rim dashed, which means it won't fillet that, which is what we want, right? We want to leave that top surface unfilleted, so that works out nicely. We'll select that, and it's going to fillet everything inside there. Now what if we select the outside of the box? Unfortunately, selecting the outside of the box is not going to work because the top edge right here is not dashed, is it? So that means it will end up filleting the edges if I select that as a feature. So I've got to back up, and I'm going to select loop so that I can at least get this whole top surface right here all in one click. Okay, so I've got that loop. But now don't I have all these vertical edges that I need to fillet as well? So that I'm going to have to go to edge. So to do that, I'm going to select edge, 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 edge here, and then edge here. We've got 1, 2, 3 edges there. What's nice is it sees through, so I can go 1, 2, 3 edges down there. Now that I've got all my sides selected, I'm going to hit apply. Okay. And for some reason, it is not wanting to do specific fillets. The issue is these pieces here. Okay. The reason it can't do a 2 millimeter fillet is because if I have a 2 millimeter fillet here and then a 2 millimeter fillet in this crevice here, well, what's the length of that wall right there? Isn't it 3? Well, if I have a 2 and a 2, doesn't that equal 4? There's not enough space for it to do that, is there? Okay. So what we want to do is we want to remove some edges. Okay. It's not letting us just remove the edges. So if I hit apply, cancel. Okay, so we're going to have to unfortunately start from the beginning. Good learning lesson though, in that dimensions matter when you're filleting. Okay, there's some edges that you can't fillet. Okay, so I'm going to go back to features, select everything on the inside. I'm going to go back to loop, and I'm going to select everything on the top here. And then I'm going to select edge, but I'm not going to do those inner edges, am I? Okay, I'm going to do this edge and that edge. I'm going to do this edge and this edge. Do this edge and that edge. I'm going to come in here and do this edge and that edge. I'm going to leave those center edges alone. So now when I apply, it's going to blend everything together really nicely. And everything is filleted the way it's filleted in our drawing. Notice those are hard corners there. They're not filleted back because our dimensions did not allow it. Okay. Oh, yes, we do. So we can add more fillets on those. We can come there, 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 and there, and then the inside feature. So let's apply. It is trying to do the same thing on the inside, isn't it? Okay. So in filleting that inside, unfortunately, we have that same issue. So we can't do whole feature. We can do loop around the bottom, and then we have to select edges. Okay. We can fillet. It looks like these two vertical pieces, and then we need our corners. There, 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 and there. Now we're going to apply, and it should successfully apply all of it, and we're where we want to be. Very good. These, we're going to leave those undone.
They look different, doesn't it, like your other?
It does, it does. And I think it's because on the inside, we ended up applying a fillet of 1 millimeter. We'll just leave it as is like this for now, okay, so we can press forward with the holes. So we're really close to being done with this, aren't we? The last thing that we need to add is what? The holes. We need to add the holes, okay? So I'm going to pick one corner to start with, and just for ease of use, I'm going to work with the top surface here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select hole. I'm going to select this top surface to place it on, and it's supposed to be a 2 millimeter through hole, so I'm going to select 2 here, and for termination I'm just going to select through all. So it's going to create a hole through all. Now I have to select the 2 edges that I'm going to reference it to. I'm going to reference it to that edge and that edge. So now I can adjust these measurements. What are those measurements? Looks like it's 1.5, right? 1.5. Okay. Oh, I exited out prematurely, so I'm going to go back in and edit feature. This dimension also needs to be converted to 1.5. Now I'm going to click OK, and there's the hole. There is my hole feature on the corner that will match up with the top of the box. But don't I want those on all the corners? Okay. So to do that, I'm simply going to be doing a rectangular pattern again. I'm going to select this feature to pattern, and same thing as the pattern that we did the cutouts for. This is one of the directions, and this is my other direction. That direction is backwards, so I'm going to swap it to be the appropriate direction. What were the values that we had to plug in here? Right, it was the 47 and 17 to get them to pattern correctly to each corner. So now having them patterned into each corner, okay, we can click OK, and we now have our hole features nicely placed exactly where they need to be on our box bottom. And the box bottom is done. It's now ready to mate with the box top and apply a nice seal between the two and fasten them together. Those. So what we can do really quick if we want to get that done is go back into our second fillet here. I'm going to edit feature, and I'm going to change them all to 1 millimeter fillets. Okay, and by doing that, I can now add these 4 edges in because that distance of 3 is big enough to handle 1 millimeter radius fillets. I click OK. Now it looks like what it looks like in the drawing, correct?